All right, let's see where we left off. Git log. We have a basic form with validations. That's the last thing we got done. This yellow squiggly is bothering me. We need the annotation showing that we're using a callback. And I'm just going to commit that. Okay. Small thing, mix phx.server. Let's see. Okay, the home page is still the default, but if we visit any room ID, we are in a room where we can, if we give a name and number, our name and number is hooked up to the backend, and we have validations. The next thing we would want is that when another person shows up here, we want, if Bob showed up, we would want, if Bob showed up, we would want to see, these two users want to see each other. And the problem here, you might see them both here in the back end. You're like, oh yeah, this is simple. We can just right here, we can add, we just combine Bob and the vet stuff together here. But not so easy, because each live view is a completely separate process that does not share any state with other processes. They can only communicate with each other through message passing. So the Phoenix's answer for this feature we want of seeing the other users and their numbers is called presence. Let's find that. Phoenix presence, we need to implement that. Okay, Phoenix presence. We're on 1.7. So we need to define a module. Start by defining a presence module within your application. And myappweb.presence. Okay. Let's see here. Lib. Quick average web. New file. Presence.ex. Okay. It's not myappweb. It is quick average. And the same here. Quick average. Okay. The PubSub server must point to an existing PubSub server running in your application, which is by default is myapp.pubsub, so that you would find in your application. And there it is. There is a PubSub server, and it is quick average PubSub. So what's next? Next, add the new supervisor to your supervision tree in application. It must be after PubSub and before the endpoint. I have neglected to read this properly in the past and messed it up. So we need myappweb.presence in between, after PubSub, before endpoint. In general, if you're implementing a new thing, always read the entire page of documentation, especially if it's not a super big page like this one. Okay, we need this module in the supervision tree. Yank until the space, just like that. Now, let's see. Once added, presences can be tracked in your channel after joining, and here you're starting to see a challenge with using presence and live view, or getting started with presence and live view, is that a lot of the existing documentation or blog posts or screencasts you're going to find would be for using channels, which is for JavaScript. That's because presence was really cool even before live view existed. So this is for a channel is for connecting to a presence from JavaScript over a WebSocket, which is not what we're doing. So you got to scroll down to using Elixir as a presence client. So they're saying we got to add more stuff to our presence module. Well, we got to add two functions, but this has a bunch of example code in it. Okay. I don't want that much code, and I don't think we need it all. And this, yeah, it says here what it's going to do. Each time someone joins, it'll send a message to everybody. Each time someone leaves, it'll send a message to everybody. We don't actually want that. We want something different. But what we want is that all the presences are here in one place. dbg presences. Okay. Let's see that. I'm going to restart the app just in case it's needed. Okay. Notice how that dbg for presences, that debug, never shows up here. That is because our live view process is not yet being tracked. Let's do that. Live view track. Something I don't love is that this is a little bit sparse on documentation and examples, but in my experience, when I'm connecting from an Elixir process, track with Arrowdia 4 has been easier for me to get working than track with Arrowdia 3. So let's get this. Track with Arrowdia 4. So in our live view, we'll probably close applications. In our live view, yeah, we want to be tracked. So we're asking presence, please track me. So, yeah, we got to fill this in. The first problem is that presence module is not available. Yank until the space. Okay, we need that. Okay, so for a PID, we can pass self. For a topic, we need to pass the room ID. This is going to fail to compile. So let's first get that room ID. Okay, so the room ID should be coming in the params because it is in the router as room ID. So that should be coming in as a param. So if it comes in the params, let's see how to grab it out of the params. dbg params. Okay. Oh, it's already here. Params. It looks like this. Room ID, like that. So, room ID. That is going to get us the room ID. So our topic is going to be room ID. And the socket should have an ID that we can use as a key. It needs to be unique for each user, and that's going to be just fine. Socket.id. Yep. That should do. And then the meta is what do we pass? Now this is the mount function, so it's when the page first loads. So that can be name, when the page first loads, the name will be empty. And number, we could give an empty string here, but I could see how in the future, if the user puts in no number, it might be more clear for us to pass it through to Phoenix Presence as nil, so that if later down the road we compute an average, it's easier to look at nil and see that it's not there than to look at an empty string. But then again, what if users typed in a string that's not a number? Anyway, yeah, I think all of our validation should happen right here in the live view close to the front end before it goes anywhere in the rest of our application. You generally want to do validations at the very beginning when data comes into your system, or at the very end before you persist it somewhere or return it to a user. So let's plan that in the very beginning we will validate, so that before we send it to the rest of our system, it'll be nil like this. Okay. Now we should be tracking when a user loads the page, or presence should be tracking. Let's see. It's already happening because the page is already loaded. So yeah, we've got name and number. That's great. And if we start typing in here, there's no tracking happening because we're tracking when the page first loads, but we're not. I wonder, would this go faster if I use this built-in terminal? Maybe it will. Maybe I'd have less windows to shuffle. I think I'm going to do that. Nah, anyway, so let's keep going. Let's not overthink it right now. I'm recording a video. Okay, so we are tracking when we first load the page, but we are not sending updates. So there's another function here, update. And you will notice that update has the same 4 arguments that you pass it as track. So it's the same thing. So we literally need, I don't like how long this line is. Let's do that. So we're going to have a very similar line here, but instead of track, it's going to be update. And we've got a problem here. We have no room ID. Let's have this also multi-line and have a room ID. So let's assign a room ID to the socket. Then this would be socket.assigns.roomID. And this looks a lot like user params. Okay, now we hope to actually track when someone is passing in. Look at that. So we have presences, and there's a name of an empty string and a number of 0, and another one with a name of Devet and a number of 9, because this one, Bob. So yeah, no matter how many of these we have, we're going to have a list here. Well, we're going to have a map here with these. So in the back end, we have the data we need. We have in one data structure that Devet has 9 and Bob has 3. Even though these are different browsers and different Elixir processes that are managing their state, Phoenix Presence has it all together for us. Let's see if we can clean up and commit this, because I feel like putting this together and presenting it to the front end is a different concern that I want to put in a different commit. So let's see, what do we have? Okay. Quick average, okay, we're adding to our supervision tree. I want to keep that. We're aliasing presence, and then we're asking presence to track us, and we're asking presence, we're sending presence our updates, and the presence module itself needs to be added. Okay. Add presence and track user info. I feel like it's so that is so many features. In another framework that didn't have this built in, I would have done many commits that I don't even know which emoji will define. Maybe this is just, Sparkle. It is so cool. Okay. All right. Let's stop there, and I'll do a next video to continue.